Whipple Family Misadventures, Book 7, Mischief in Their Eyes, Chapter 14. The scene Wade ran into was wild and chaotic.
No, stop!
Wade screamed when he saw that Eric had pulled out his gun. On the other side of the room, Silver was hovering in the air, several objects suspended around him, and both Shadow and Sonic looked ready to rush forward, preparing to attack.
Everyone stop!
All four of them turned towards him, everyone talking at once.
Everyone calm down. It's okay. They're not going to hurt you, and he's not going to hurt you guys. Let's just put that down, and we can all just talk.
Tom ordered, coming in behind Wade, quickly assessing the situation. Eric wasn't in uniform, currently wearing regular everyday clothes. The look on his face could only be described as a cross between shocked and horrified. He lowered the gun slightly so it was pointed at the floor.
What are those things?
Hey, we're not things.
It talks? Why does it talk?
Hold on, Eric.
Wade insisted, his heart still racing. The absolute fear from running inside and seeing Eric pointing a gun at the kids had been terrifying. This was supposed to be a safe place, not somewhere else they could potentially get hurt.
Yes, they talk. They're hedgehogs. It's okay.
What do you mean it's okay? Tom, did you know about this?
Yeah, I do. The blue one's my son.
After a moment, Eric slowly put the gun back on the desk and steadied himself against the piece of furniture, like he was feeling faint. Although instead of his face turning pale, it was nearly the same color as his red hair.
Let's just sit down and we'll explain everything. I promise there's a very rational explanation for this, and you don't need to panic.
Wade noticed as soon as Eric sat down. He pulled back slightly and looked down to see both Silver and Shadow were baring their teeth at him in a silent snarl. Shadow's brow raised in an attempt to look threatening.
Boys, you can stop that.
He ordered sharply, neither of them helping their position that they weren't a danger to Eric. Another time he would have been amused by the fact that they were doing that while also staying as close to him as possible.
Right here.
I know. But we're safe now. You don't need to make threats anymore.
Maybe this would be better if it was just the three of us. Sonic, you go on home. I'll be there in a minute.
Immediately, Wade realized why he was doing and saw it was a good idea.
You two go home as well.
The police station wasn't that far from his house and both knew the way. They could walk back without him.
Right now?
Yeah, right now. I'll be there when I'm done. It won't be that long. Go straight home and then start getting ready for bed.
He said, giving his two a little nudge with his knee. The three men watched as all three hedgehogs walked out without another word. As soon as they were outside, Sonic shot off in a blur in one direction, and Shadow and Silver turned to go in the other way.
Are those things aliens?
Yes.
And they live with you? In your house? Is that safe? Aren't you worried they might try to kill you or something while you're asleep?
No. I know this wasn't a good introduction, but they're not dangerous. They're kids.
You scared them just as much as they scared you.
Eric stared at the door for a long time, like he expected them to return at any moment.
How long have they been here?
Tom and Wade shared a quick glance, unsure on how much to tell him, but also knowing that as the shock wore off, Eric would obviously be very curious and have a lot of questions. It would have been more suspicious if he didn't.
Sonic, the blue one, lived on Earth for 10 years, but since last summer he's lived with us, and Silver and Shadow, the gray one and black and red one, have been here since February. They live with Wade.
You're sure they're safe? Because they were doing some freaky stuff before you got in here, like I saw one of them.
Yes, we're very sure.
How do you know?
Because both of us have spent time with them, all of them. This didn't just happen yesterday.
So this has been going on for a while, them being here?
Tom nodded.
And where did they come from?
Weird alien tech that stranded them on this planet after they left their own planet.
Wade said, deciding to save Shadow's wild backstory for later. The poor man seemed barely able to wrap his mind around there being aliens in town. He didn't need to hear about how Shadow was created by a mad scientist, had technically had 3 different ages due to being physically advanced to his current age. and then frozen in suspended animation for several decades.
And they can't go back?
No way to send them back. And none of them had parents, so there's nothing to send them back to anyway. So we take care of them now. As he said, they're all kids. Silver and Shadow are both 11, and Sonic is 12.
So you're like their guardians?
More than that, Natty and I are actively in the process of adopting Sonic.
I filed it for my two, but I'm still waiting to hear back from the judge.
Adoption?
Yes,
So legally, his kids would belong to him, and my son would belong to my wife and I, and no one from the government can come and try and take them away from us.
Are there others?
yes, there's. Oh no, we left Amy alone in the car.
Getting to his feet, he hurried back outside, ready to apologize to the poor little girl that they had left behind. She was probably very confused, and then stopped when he noticed one of the rear doors to his car had been left open. The car was empty. When Tom and Eric came up behind him, Wade turned toward them.
She's gone.
What?
She must have run off.
Wade sat looking both ways down the street, seeing nothing, especially not a little pink hedgehog girl with a hammer. While there wasn't a lot of mischief or trouble she could get into, it was still concerning. Taking charge, Tom looked towards Eric.
Can you lock up the station when you're done here? We need to go find the fourth one.
Who's the fourth one? How did she get away?
We'll explain later. Tomorrow.
Thankfully, Eric seemed to get the message as he nodded and headed back inside the station. When Wade glanced back, he briefly saw Eric return to his desk, where he sat down and started writing, probably to finish up paperwork for the close of the week. Tom sighed.
Let's go find her.
Almost immediately, it became clear that finding a small hedgehog in the dark was going to be difficult, especially if she didn't want to be found by them. The only good news that it was no longer winter, and they did have to worry about her freezing to death in the snow somehow.
So either we're going to find her, someone else is going to find her, or she's going to take Sonic's place as the town's cryptid.
The Pink Savile isn't a good name. Also, she's kinda young to be out here on her own.
Well, Sonic was a lot younger.
Wade had never considered that. Poor kid, all on his own for years.
We should split up. Better chance of spotting her.
Right, I'll also let anyone know if they find her to let us know tomorrow at work.
A feeling of desperation was starting to come over Wade the longer he searched, as soon as he needed to go home to his boys, but still didn't feel right leaving kid out on the streets alone at night. Then he heard someone call his name. Looking up, Wade saw Carl sitting at the end of a table across the street in a pub, beckoning him multiple times. Frowning, he walked toward him, and then immediately realized why Carl had called him, as Amy was perched on a stool next to him, her hammer on the table, as she was munching on some french fries.
Oh, thank goodness. Amy, you cannot run off like that.
You guys ran off first and just left me there alone.
We were coming back. It was a bit of an emergency. Thank you for finding her, Carl.
Not a problem. She was just telling me about this marvelous hammer of hers. I've never seen anything like it.
I got it when I was little, and I've had it ever since. And it's good for smashing bad guys, which I've met way more than I thought I would.
Well, you can tell me more about it when I see you next time. I'm sure Wade wants to get you back home.
Wade awkwardly cleared his throat as that statement was only half true. Frowning, Carl leaned forward, putting his chin in his palm as he studied him.
Does Miss Amy have a place to go to tonight?
Not yet. We're trying to figure out something. She was a bit of an 11th hour surprise.
Well then, if you don't have a place for her, I could take her for now until you can get whatever else figured out.
Are you sure?
Really?
I'm sure, especially if she doesn't have anywhere else to go. Besides, it's been a bit lonely since my wife died, and my girls only bring the grandkids here for a visit every now and then.
Only if you're okay with it, Amy. You want to go?
Do you have any daughters? Are they my age?
I do, and not quite. It's been a long time since they were as small as you are. I think my youngest went to school with Wade.
She was a few grades ahead of me. Carl's a very nice man. He won't be cruel to you, I promise.
Okay.
Under that white beard, Carl brightened, a smile coming across his face in a way Wade hadn't seen in a long time.
Then come on, little lady. Have you ever heard of Bigfoot?
When she shook her head, hopping down to follow him, clutching her hammer, he kept talking.
Well, I plan on finding him. Maybe you can help me with that.
Wade stood on the sidewalk and watched the two of them walk away towards the little house that Carl owned near the edge of town and sighed. A few minutes later, Tom joined him.
Did you find her?
I did. She's with Carl. He said he'll take care of her until we figure something else out.
Crazy Carl?
Yep, and I need to get home and make sure the boys are getting to bed.
Of course. I'll mark that you called in sick tomorrow if you do the same for me and handle everything on Tuesday.
After an action-packed weekend that sounded amazing, especially since being out of town at that training had stolen both his usual days for getting errands done.
You got it. See you on Wednesday.
15 minutes later, he climbed the steps to his porch. Wade only hoped that the rest of the evening would go smoothly, as he had had more than enough of his fair share of chaos in the last few days.
I'm sorry that it took so long.
He said as he opened the door, stopped, and smiled. He was fully convinced that both boys would still be up, waiting for him, but instead he found the two of them asleep on the couch, tucked under a cozy blanket, with Netflix playing in the background. Wade stood there for a moment before he turned off the show and gently picked up Silver and his plush and carried him towards their room, tenderly putting him into bed.
Night, kiddo.
He muttered, taking an extra moment to make sure he was sunk in warmly before heading back to the living room. By that time, Shadow was sitting up on the couch and let out a massive yawn.
Hey, buddy.
Wade said softly, holding out his arms, pleased when Shadow crawled into them without hesitating.
You ready to go to bed?
No. And Dad?
Yeah?
They thought I helped save them.
What?
Sonic and Silver. After I teleported out, they thought I was going to get help. But I didn't. I wasn't even able to do anything. I couldn't even speak. Then I fell asleep while they were still in danger.
Grimacing, it took Wade a few moments to gather his thoughts, and he only entered that scene at that very end and didn't fully know all of what had happened up until that part.
Do you know why you weren't able to talk? Or what made you so upset?
That man locked us in a closet, and we said we were going with him to Seattle, which I could not do. And there wasn't a way to escape, not without teleporting.
Mentally, Wade filed that comment away for later.
But you still managed to teleport?
Yeah, it's tiring for me to do, and I was really upset.
And sometimes when you're upset, you can't talk?
Yeah.
Wade smiled sympathetically, shifting his son in his arms.
That's not your fault, Shadow. You were doing the best you could, and Tom was able to find them. So it all worked out. And you obviously needed to sleep, so that's what you did.
I still didn't do anything helpful.
Turning around, Wade returned to the living room and sat in his chair, still holding Shadow.
What do you think you could have done?
I should have been able to calm down, and then I could have led Tom right back to them. That's what I wanted to do, or at least told him where they were. But my brain didn't want to work the right way.
Yeah, I know what that feels like. It's happened to me before.
I couldn't make it stop. How do I make it not do that in the future, especially if someone else is in danger?
To be honest, I'm not sure. We'll try and think of something for next time, okay? A way to help you? But for now, I just want you to know what happened was your body saying it couldn't do anything else and it needed to rest, and listening to your body is never a bad thing. It's not your fault.
The darker hedgehog deflated, clearly not what he wanted to hear.
Okay.
Wade stroked his ears.
Good. Now, honestly, I really want to go to bed, so that means bedtime for you as well.
Carrying Shadow into the bedroom, he set him down and made sure he was also tucked in.
Sleep well, okay? I love you so much.
As soon as both kids were safe in their beds, Wade turned off all the lights, ensured both doors were locked, and retired to his own room, taking only a moment to change into something more comfortable and sending Melissa a text to let her know that she wouldn't need to watch the boys the following day. Wade did a backwards flop onto the bed, It had been only a week since Tom had dropped by to inform him of the trip they had to go on, and yet it felt like it had been so much longer. But that was his life now. Sometimes it was quiet and safe, other times wild and unpredictable. And while Wade would have preferred things to never go too out of hand, he also didn't regret a thing.